Hello and welcome to another episode of the SpeakEZ Podcast, powered by HireEZ and the Recruiting Academy. My name is Dan Harten, and I am joined by one of the most senior voices in human resources today, John Baldino. He's the president of Humareso. With over 30 years of HR experience, John has helped organizations align people, strategy, culture, business, and outcomes. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dan, for having me. That was such an energetic intro. Thank you for that.
I try to make my best with my best speakers, my best guests, try to give it all and really, amplify them and get the energy flowing back and forth.
You got it. We're there.
All right. So the state of recruiting today, you were at RecFest, you're coming up on a couple other conferences, TalentNet. I think you're going to
Yeah,
speak there
I am.
for recruiters, by recruiters. Like, what's the state of recruiting today? Like, you're working with your customers, clients, you're hearing, seeing, feeling a lot of different things. Where are we at right now?
Yeah, I would say it's a yes and environment.
Yes.
And so, yes, we're seeing a lot of information and realities, I should say, on layoffs. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of the last couple of weeks for sure when it comes to layoffs, and I don't think we're done yet. So, yes, there is truth on the recruiting side, like, hey, wait a minute, companies are really scaling back on their hiring. But I'd also say, and that's not true in all organizations, and even for the ones that have just done some significant layoffs. It's the level of role, it's the type of role, and the need within a particular industry that is still real, right? So there's still going to be recruiting happening. It just may look a little different than what some people with certain types of, say, executive recruiting are used to. I'm not saying that in a hearts and rainbows sort of way. I'm realistic and understand what's happening at the moment, but I want to make sure that we're still affirming the fact that there are roles to be had.
Awesome. I mean, there's starts, there's pauses. Maybe what's one red flag that tells your recruiting team that you've been working with that they're stuck in the past? Because obviously the evolution is going quickly, of AI and all these other technologies, and sometimes the recs stop, but that doesn't mean that the recruiting teams need to stop, because if they stop, they're going to get stuck in the past. What are you seeing as a common theme of maybe a red flag of like, hey, that recruiting team is going to get stuck in the past because they're just stopping evolving?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, the first thing I'd say is I'm very bullish on RecOps. You cannot let that portion of responsibility become stagnant. That has to be looked at often and regularly. So, RecOps all the way. The other thing I would say is there are enough candidates in our systems that I have often told my recruiting team and other recruiting teams, we need to spend some time. If some of the job recs are down, we've got to spend some time cultivating those relationships with those folks that are already in our pools for what that next opportunity that may come on our desks tomorrow morning. And we have already kept sort of candidates warm. We've kept relationships viable. That there's still a great need for that to happen. I think it's the worst thing to do, and one of the things that unfortunately becomes a negative for recruiting teams. You only call when you need something. We have a reason to be able to update skills within our system. Hey, check in. Anything changed for you? Yeah, I got certified in this, or I took a course on that. Let's make sure we've got those knowledge pieces thrown into their profiles within the system. And then the third thing I would say that comes to mind, um, I'm really big on practice. So, because and I love how you called me senior, which is, code for old. But
Yeah. That-
um, the whole role play thing, we used to call it back in the day. We don't love those terms all the time, but I love having recruiters work with one another and practice some of those skills up, because you will get rusty if you are not doing as much as you once did when it comes to initial screens, first interviews, those kinds of things. Jump on and start talking to each other as if you are candidates for particular roles. because some of the specialty areas, we also have to maybe widen a little bit more. Some roles, some industries right now, it's really changed. And so being very narrow in the kind of recruitment you do might not serve you well long term. You may need to add one or two types to it. So practice on some of those things with one another comfortably.
Are you seeing companies doing that? I spoke at a conference last weekend, and I kind of touched on obviously this applicant fraud coming in,
Yeah.
and is it a fake candidate? Is it not? But when I got in the industry, I was trained on quote unquote red flags,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And got a paper resume. I have my red pen, and I'm going through of saying what are some of the red flags on a resume. Now, are we teaching the up and coming generation or even the people that haven't done it in a while? Are the teachings and the teachbacks and the camaraderie within recruiting teams, is that happening again? Or is there a need for that, that we're coaching and teaching and what is going to be successful in this new wave of AI?
Yeah, I would say, it's not happening enough, if at all, in some companies. Obviously, I don't wanna paint with too broad a brush. Some, I'm sure, are.
Sure. Yep.
But, I too remember the red pen days and all of that. I mean, honestly, I used to get resumes dropped off at my job by people with their cover letters on really beautiful paper, some of them scented. I mean, lovely times, right? Um, and I didn't really have to worry about the AI thing, of course, back then because it physically was somebody coming in and dropping them off. I knew the person was real, so I never had to question that. So when you think about it today, the one thing that I have told many recruiters over the past 6 months probably, take your job description for the role that you're looking to fill, put it into, whatever AI tools you might be using, ask the AI tool to spit out a resume based on that. There are going to be significant overlaps in what it spits out if you put it up against some of the resumes that are coming into your system. So because it's only got so much of a database up against that job description that is there. So if you see almost word for word, some of the same bullet points under experience, some of the same profile language, almost verbatim to what it is you found on the other end of that AI input. You could probably think two things. One, it's not real, or two, the person is not taking care of their own future in the way in which they're putting this resume together. So for both of those reasons, there's red flags, right? For each one of those. Um, that is probably an initial place I would start. The Obviously we can get in the weeds. A lot of specific roles, there are ways that you can do some red flag checks on some things as well as to whether there's a legitimacy to it, if it's a fake submission. But I'd say let that be step one across the board for a lot of organizations.
Love it. I mean, that human layer obviously is never going to go away. We are battling and we're fighting for this recruiting industry. And part of that is that human connection of even just picking up the phone and having those phone screens and, building those relationships long term. Like you said, sometimes recruiting gets a bad rap of the only time that recruiting wants to talk to me is to fill a role.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not the case, especially in the executive search firm. The people that I'm recruiting at a high level, these leaders at these different companies and organizations, if they only see my phone call coming through when I need to fill my own role versus how I can help you every step of the way,
Yeah.
nobody's going to pick up our phone.
And
With
and
technology, with information, I always say, hey, information overload. We have resources, the tip of our fingers. But the thing that really separates good and great recruiters is when I do make the call, are they going to pick up the phone?
yeah. Yeah. And I would say, to come back to what you were asking a few minutes ago, there are a lot of folks that got into recruiting in 2021 when the floodgates open. We were just hiring anybody to make calls, and we called them a recruiter and to do all that stuff. And please don't think I'm knocking on anybody like that. You were brought in for that purpose. Have we really trained those individuals? No, they really came in a reactionary role. They were put in a seat with a phone and their computer, and just started going and pouring through applications, candidate profiles to jobs that have been posted, because everyone was trying to fill all these open roles coming out of the pandemic. I'm not mad at any of those individuals, but it's been 4 years. Have we done any training with those individuals? Have we helped them to understand the relational aspect like you're talking about, Dan, of their place as part of the community, not just how they were initially brought in as a job? There's more to that we can cultivate in them, and there's probably some quality individuals who are waiting for that kind of investment.
100%, 100%. I mean, I look at it as the real estate industry too. There's a lot of people that went in and said, "Hey, I'm gonna be a realtor." They made a ton
Right.
of money when the market was hot. Right now, the market isn't hot right now. And the people that are continuing to be successful are the people that, hey, I'm going to call my realtor this
Yeah.
specific one versus anybody and everyone. It's
Yep.
very, very similar from the real estate industry to the recruiter. When I do make that call, is someone going to answer on the other end and you're showing value?
Absolutely. And
We have to evolve. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and you in making that point, that's where I think about, so even with the Humareso recruiting team, we still have recs, everybody, right? Like, so we're not just kind of sitting, oh man, it's all terrible. We've got recs. Why do we have recs? For two reasons. One, that relationship value matters so much. And two, there are still roles to be filled, and we have organizations that are doing more with less. And so they may not have maintained as robust an internal headcount for their recruiting team as they once did, but they still need these roles to be filled. And so are looking for those, like you were just mentioning, those external recruiting firms, those external support agents, contract recruiters to help with filling these roles. And so those relationships are going to matter. And so that you get that phone call.
You are speaking at FRBR November 19th, 12:20 Central Time. Your title is Stronger Together, Aligning
Yes.
Recruiting and HR in a Shifting Labor Market. Walk me through what you're going to be talking about. Why did you choose this topic? And why is it so important to understand the alignment and how the recruiting has evolved in this new age?
Yeah. I feel very personal about this topic. And for anyone who's known me for any period of time, I mean, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, and so um, uh, we cannot afford, in all the ways that I mean the word afford, we can't afford to have any more misalignment between talent acquisition and human resources. Just can't. We are and need to be a unified front when it comes to both the candidate experience and the employee experience once they're brought in. There should be continuity in those things. So the HR team has a vested interest in the talent acquisition team because they're setting the tone for what life will be like once that candidate is brought into the organization. So misaligned expectations of role success, a hiring manager that has decided to go rogue and fill the heads of the talent acquisition professional with something that is never going to be the case once it gets to performance that's monitored by the HR team. We've got to help cut through that noise and make sure that the two teams are aligned when it comes to this full experience for the individual and for the sanctity of the role that's being filled. What is it about the role? And so part of that too is, to your point, we've got a shifting labor market, right? There's a bit of bravado for some companies right now. They're like, yeah, we're good with posting and praying because there's a lot more people out of work. So we don't
Sure.
need to worry about talent acquisition as much. We'll just post and pray, and then it's HR's problem. No, it's not. That's not the way this is going to work. So I'm excited to kind of unpack some of that perspective at FRBR in a few weeks. It'll be really fun, and I'm excited to kind of be the bridge builder in the day's topics.
It's so funny how we have evolved. It was, hey, let's find the data, let's get as much data as possible. And now we're at a point where we organizations have a flooded applicant pool in their CRM, their ATS. And
Yes.
now it's how do you utilize all of that data or that candidates that are already in-house that you know everything about. And the next generation of recruiting is not how to get the data, it's how are you going to use that data and make an impact.
Yeah. And the alignment to human resources then works backwards because we also have, besides external sourcing and candidate submission that'll happen, we have internal mobility also to be thoughtful about. And that's where HR, coming backwards, gets to work with talent acquisition to say, don't forget about Fred that we hired, you helped hire 18 months ago, who has excelled here, here, and here, and is excited about this role that now is posted and is open. How do we have Fred, even if he's not the person we select ultimately, how do we have him be part of the process in an equitable way with the external candidates to have the same experience as everybody else, but also to have a door open through HR for the feedback that may be necessary for Fred if he's not selected for the role. We want to make sure that what talent acquisition has said and what HR is saying is aligned. That is valuable.
Love it. As we wrap up, what's one thing that you want to tell the recruiting community? Word of advice, maybe through hard times currently right now, or anything else from your experience that can make an impact?
Um, can I say two quick things?
You bet you can.
One, and you sort of alluded to this, your technology is still your friend. Please look at your all the tools you have, right? Things that are involved with sourcing, with selection, with your ATS, all those pieces. Really make sure that they're humming the way that they need to be in support of the work that you're doing. If anything comes from a pause, this is a good thing to come from a pause. Get that cleaned up, make sure your processes make sense. The other thing I will say is more personal. Uh, you, and I'm talking to you, whoever is listening, you have great value. You have great value. Your work does not define you. And one of the things, especially this time of year, that will settle in for some that are in our field of recruitment, when things feel down, it becomes unhealthily introspective in that you look at the negatives for you. That is not that is not going to be the case for you. Hear me. It's not going to be the case for you. Speak against those things, talk to others, work through any of those feelings of self-doubt, self-loathing. There is another side to this. Your work does not define you.
Love it. Love it. Well, John, it's been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for you and your whole team at Humareso. If you want to get in contact with them, go to humareso.com, connect with John on LinkedIn. And again, thank you so much. My name is Dan Harten. And if you want more information, go to hireeasy.com and make sure you hit subscribe for more podcast episodes to come. Thanks again.
The future of talent acquisition isn't coming. It's already here. See for yourself at hireeasy.com.